With the purchase contract module, you can, as it says here, keep track of your contracts, subscriptions, other types of costs that will occur on a frequent basis. Mean that we, with the purchase contract module, are able to get a good overview of what our costs are. We'll be able to collect and ensure that we actually being invoiced what we actually want to be invoiced for. And that is handled through a, as it says here, company policy review process that we can review the contracts on a regular basis, once per year, once per month. That's up to you to decide. And then when these contracts are linked to invoices, we can initiate a auto approval of the incoming invoices, leaving you with nothing to do, you could say, but at least saving you a lot of time, making sure that only approved invoices, approved contracts will allow the invoices to go smoothly through, just like we know from the purchase order match process. Same idea being applied here to contracts. Few words about the flow. In this demonstration we're going to see today, I have 3 groups of people involved: the account payables department, the bookkeepers, you could say. We have a contract manager who makes sure that the contracts are being reviewed by somebody and are being finalized. And then, of course, the reviewer who's going to approve, you could say, the contract, take a look at it, might comment and change some things, and that would be the person responsible for that cost area. The flow for a contract could be started by the account payables. Quite obvious, when we get an invoice, I could create a contract based on that. And that contract is then, when it's created, made available to a manager of the contracts in your company that could start a review process either individually or as a batch, once every month perhaps, or just on the fly. Through that, sending the contract to a reviewer that will then overlook the expected cost, perhaps attach a contract document or multiple documents, and then submit the review, which then returns the contract to the manager, who then could do a second adjustment if needed, or simply finish finalizing the review, which allows the account payables to auto register incoming invoices by linking the invoice to this contract, and through that proceed with auto approval in the invoice and eventually auto post also. That would save us a lot of time and also give us some cost benefits, that we only accept invoices that actually match our contracts, making sure that we are actually being invoiced for what we really need and not having too many subscriptions of software or the office rented that's increased too much according to our expectations, or whatever reason might be to hold back the invoice. All that can be automatically controlled and handled through the purchase contract solution. With the review of contracts, the approval of documents in general, we could use Business Central or the Continuous Web Approval Portal, as you can see here. And the Web Approval Portal handles multiple document types. You probably already know that, those of you that use document capture. We have handled invoices, credit memos, also expenses from our solution, expense management. And now in the same portal, we can also handle contracts, meaning that we can view all information, we can change the lines, we can add documents. And one of the new steps that we can do is to submit a review of that contract using the Web Approval Portal. It's time to look at the solution. Let's go into Business Central using the latest release of Continuous Document Capture. And I need to press a single action here to get into my role center. So there we are. Before showing the actual contract module, how it works, I would like to spend a single minute showing you how to activate, how to implement the contract module. with two scenarios. One scenario is that you are new with domain capture, so you will install domain capture, or you might have an existing domain capture installation where you want to add the contract module features. In the case that we are in a new installation that you want to configure domain capture for the first time, when installing the app, you are during a wizard being asked which modules you would like to include. And there you simply go in and activate the purchase contract module alongside the other modules that you would like to use. And when that guide is finished, the purchase contract module is together with domain capture set up and ready to use. You don't have to do anything else, then simply go through a guide and say, I want this solution, and then press finish. Then you're good to go. In case you have an existing environment, you need to go into this solution management and then activate the purchase contract module. That's one step. And then we'll go back to my role center, look up my purchase contract setup page, and go in here and click on download configuration. And by activating those two steps, you are good to go. The purchase contract module is installed and configured. You need to do nothing more in order to start using the solution. Quite easy and quite fast, I would say, around 1 minute or so. It's quite difficult to do it faster than that, but I hope that is good enough for the most users out there. Let's take a look at the contract module itself. We have here on our role center the domain capture activities ready to register documents, some invoices, credit memos that are in flow, and then also a purchase contract section where we have 3 contracts already. I have some a tile for due and overdue and review submitted contracts. Let's take a look at those contracts that are already existing in here. This is my contract list, and the contract list contains, in my demo environment here, 3 contracts where I can see there's one from BT&T, one from LinkedIn, and one from Sixt. And those contracts have different category codes, perhaps different reviewers, the person responsible, in this case it's the same user today, and different settings, among other, what are the total costs and when they are to be reviewed the next time. And we can see we have one that is pending review and one that was recently reviewed actually today. For each contract that we have, we also have the possibility to add attachments, like here the telecom contract for the BT&T. If you go to my LinkedIn, also have a LinkedIn license document. And for this one, I don't have a document, but I can add it during my handling of the contract, the review, or later on whenever needed. Let's take a look at one of the contract cards. This is our BT&T, some internet contract, some internet cost. We can see that from the category code. And those category codes are automatically added during the setup, where I would press the download, or simply when applying domain capture for the first time, I will get it automatically installed. And these category codes are some typical type of areas where you would have costs when running a company. But you can always go in and select new ones, create new ones if you want to add a new code. I also have the opportunity to add some global dimension or shortcut dimensions if you want to do that also. When does the contract start? I've applied that here. And then what price type, meaning that this is a fixed amount, but it could just have been a variable amount where we might encounter that the cost changes from month to month. That might be cases like the phone bill, the mobile phone, that we do have some fixed price, but also some changing prices depending on how many SMSs you send or where you called from or to. There might be some overseas charges. Also, the invoicing period, we have the possibility to select from a list that is automatically created when installing the module. And again, here you can add your own codes to define how often you've been invoiced. This invoicing period affects the calculation of the yearly cost, and I'll get back to that in a second. Also some auto-approve within variants, just a bit like this purchase order setup that we have on the template card for document capture. Same way of working. We're going to look at this later today, of course. We have a review part where we have listed how often we want to review the contract and when the next review date is and the current status. As you can see here, this one is pending review. Let me collapse that once again. And below in the bottom, we have the, not quite in the bottom, but here in the middle, we have the accounts being applied. And this is a GL account. It could be fixed assets or items, whatever standard types you want to add. And this line is active, starts at this day, quantity, unit cost, and then perhaps some dimensions. And here we have the yearly amount, which is calculated based on the amount per line and the cost period that we have applied to the header. At the bottom, we see some summation of all the amounts. Quite nice. Let's go back to the role center and take a look at my document journal, because in here I have a nice contract for precisely the BT&T, sorry, a nice invoice for the BT&T contract. So let's recognize this one. We recognize it using standard functionality from document capture, and you probably know that, those of you that already work with document capture. And here I can see that I recognized a bunch of cool information. At the bottom, I have a message telling me that I need to specify a GL account or an account, or in some way figure out where to post this invoice. And I could do the nice little thing and choose the contract. So I would take this and choose a purchase contract, and the purchase contract should be the one for BT&T, my subscription of internet. And I am able to go in and look and see some key information. I would choose this one. And now I have configured the document to be posted through the contract. And you can see that the document is marked as OK. And when registering this one, I get to see view my invoice, where the invoice line was created from a purchase contract. And I can actually see which contract per line and which line in my contract is linked to this, this invoice. Everything is nice and neat, but how, Mikkel, do we create these contracts? Why don't we go back to the contract list and take a look at that? So in my contract list, I have 3 contracts, and if I want to create a new one, I could press the create new here in my menu in the top of the page. I will select the vendor, I will select my fabricant, and I will then fill in a few information. That would be fabricant is window cleaning, like this, who is going to review this one, who's the responsible person. Let's see who do I have in the list. This is my purchase list. That would be Mr. Robin. So I'll choose him here. And I need to add a cost carry code. That would be building costs. This window cleaning is some external cost, so that is regarding my building. I would skip down to the contract start and say this starts today. That's fine. And then with price type fixed amount. Yeah, I do expect that to be fixed. And how often would it be invoiced? That would be probably each quarter. Yeah, that's quarterly. And what do I need? I would like to add a GL account, and that would be my 31500. Some miscellaneous expenses. Yes, please. And I could write here, this is a monthly window. Yeah, cleaning. And what does that cost? I got a good price, so it's 200 for this per month. And then we look at the yearly amount is 800. That's because quarterly is, yeah, we have 4 quarters per year. That means 4 times 200 adds up to 800. And now the contract is finished. I can start the review process, or I could start receiving invoice or whatever I would like to do. This is more or less complete. But creating a contract manually is not what I want to do. I want to save some time time is important here, so I would go into my journal and start creating contracts based on invoice content. So let's take a look at this one. I have an invoice from WeRent. This is my office rent, as you can see here to the right. It says rental of 1,000 square foot office, and I would like to recognize the document, and through that recognition, then create a contract. Let's see what do I have here. I have invoice number and a bunch of other interesting information. I would probably like to add some description here. I could do that and say I would like to apply this description just for the fun of it. So I have this recognized also. Good. Recognizing the date is one thing. I need to create a contract. That's the second step up here. Create purchase contract from the purchase contract menu. Selecting this one opens a page up where I can manually fill in the values like category code, invoicing period, and the account, or I could choose a template. So why don't we choose a template to save a bit of time? And there we have today 3 created templates. I can add more if I want, but this one, the template number 1, this is one I want to have. This is office cost, the rent it says here, description office rent, looks very familiar. So I would choose this one, and this would then automatically apply standard values like who is responsible for that, the cost code, and so on. And then I could start fill in the start date, and that would be, let's say that is 1st of December. We'll start that. And by filling in the start date, and when we look at the review period, the next review date is then calculated automatically. But I can always change that, update that, and I would say this needs to be updated before go on Christmas holiday. So that's around here. So let's update this. Good. In my template, I also had an account configured, and this would be the one that is being created in my contract. So let's take a look at the contract. Do you want to open the contract when I'm finished? Yes, please do. And clicking OK here then shows me the contract card with my category, purchaser, my contract start, and so on, all this information. And we have the GL account selected from the category card and the amount taken from the invoice. So everything here looks quite nice and swell. So I'm happy, and we'll go back to my journal. Look into the journal, into the WeRent invoice, you'll see that the contract type and number has been applied automatically here. So we have a fully configured invoice right now, and I can register this if I want to. So why don't we do that? The WeRent is going to be created as an invoice card, and you'll see that here once again, line is created based on the contract, of course. The amounts do match. 7899.99 is what we have in here, and that is also what is in the contract line, it says here. So everything is just cool. I usually get this one question that when showing this, that it's easy to create a contract with one line, but what if I have a contract, an invoice, a contract that has multiple lines? So how do we handle this? And handling invoices with multiple lines, creating contracts based on those is just as easy. I'll simply go in and recognize an invoice with lines. This is a vendor that I receive quite a lot from, and therefore the template is already set up. Everything is configured. Let's take a look at the document card. And if I look into this, you'll see that the lines have all been translated based on the standard translation, either from item reference list or domain capture, number or text translation. Could also be some GTIN item translation number that has been applied. Everything is just as we know it, data been recognized and ready to post, but I don't want to post it right now. I want to create this contract based on these multiple lines. And let's do that. The same story as before. Select purchase contract, create purchase contract. Yes, please, I'll do that. And again, I could use a contract. Let's do that. I would select my hardware rental. This is what it is about, renting a color printer, or actually 3, and some maintenance for that. Okay, and that's a monthly fee that matches this invoice. So I would add the contract, and you see the values are filled in, and I can apply a start date. So let's fill in the start date here, 1st of January, and I would also like this to be finalized before we get too close to the Christmas, so that will be around here. Yeah. And if you see a change from before, where we created a contract based on one amount, we there had a field for choosing an account. We don't have that here. In this case, we take the values from the lines and use that for creating the contract lines. There we are. Color printer, maintenance, quantity, everything is here, and it's neatly calculated, adding up to some good amounts in here. In this case, it would be wise perhaps to have some details about what we're actually renting. So I would look up my document folder where I have my hardware rental agreement and simply drag this into the page. Cool stuff. And if I think I'm finished, I actually am. I don't need to do anything more. I could go back to my journal, and let's take a look at the header fields where we have the purchase contract and the account number, purchase contract number shown. And if I browse the document card, you will also here see a bit of change. I have a column being added automatically. So when I start using purchase contracts line creation feature, this field is being added to notifying us about how these lines are being linked to the contract card. Quite nice and quite convenient to be able to see that. Great stuff. I would like to now review some of my contracts. So let's go to the contract page, take a look here and see I have a few one I would like to send on, and that would be my 6th and my new not publishers. Those 2 contracts are very important for me to finalize now. So I would highlight those 2 and start a review batch. That's a nice way to do. Simply send all that you want, or the selected ones, or everything, or you can select individual, say this single one I want to send off for review, or in this case I selected 2. So let me send those for review. And by using this review batch, I have the option to change the filter and say I want everything that is due until the end of the year. So please get those out for pending review. And I see that this one has another date, 23. Okay, so I need to start manually by clicking here. So we actually have a process that checks whether the next review date is within the filter that I set, and if it isn't, then it would be skipped. But I can always go in manually and push it onwards. So now we have 3 documents, 3 contracts pending review. So let's take a look at the review part, and I'll do that in the Continue Web Approval Portal as Mr. Robin Bettencourt. Logging in now, and it takes a second to open the page, and here we are, purchase and sales in the top. I'll choose purchase, and then I have my approvals, my archive, and also my contracts. Please remember that when you use document capture, you have these menus. You can always add more menus if you want to have detailed filtering of your different document types. But using expense management will also show a menu item up here, combining all the different cost types that you might approve in the same platform, in the same user interface. Very convenient and very nice. So let's see, I have a list of 3 contracts. Let's take a look at the not publishers one that I looked at just before. And here I can see I have a PDF as attachments. Why don't we look at this so I can view the contract? Here it is, and I can scroll through the document pages to take a look at all the conditions and terms that are in here. If I want to, I can add more documents. I can change the license, as you can see, based on the permissions that have been assigned through my Continue user setup page, and approval permissions also can choose from selected accounts. Robin thinks this is good, so he will say that everything is just fine. He needs to fill in a review comment, otherwise he's not able to submit his review. He might have changed some information in the lines and want to add that as a comment, but in this case, everything is just fine. And he press enter on that, and the comment is now stored with the contract, just like we know from approving purchase invoices. He's finished. He will submit his review, and that is it for today. Signing out and going back to Business Central. Let's take a look at the role center. You see we have one review document it's submitted. So let's take a look at the full list and see what this is all about. This is our not publishers that is now it now has a review that has been submitted, and we see that the comment is stated here, and only thing we now need to do is to, as a contract manager, finish the review, kind of closing the circle that the document has been through the full flow. You might want to return it to the reviewer if you change something or you have questions to him, then you could have a ping pong chat through that. But let's finish the review, which enables us to use a contract for automated processes, and that's what we're going to see in a second. Yes, I want to finish the review, and it was finished by Esther on that date. And all these different timestamps and information is stored up here in our contract page, where we have an archive where I can go through all the different steps, the version numbers, the version 1, the first one, which was submitted or sending it for review. It is now pending review, and it was Esther who sent it off. The step 2 was Robin that submitted the review, added a comment. And then the last step here is Esther who finalized the review, finished the process. And in case there were some documents added during the flow, you will see those in the attachment page. So this is actually finished and good to go. Just like the one from LinkedIn, this one is also finished review. We can see that it's not pending review. It actually has a review date that was done recently, meaning that it's ready to accept invoices coming in. And let's see that work here. I would go to my we'll have it, my ready to register, and take a look at my LinkedIn invoice. There we are, recognizing this one. And I should have a setup in here that does actually work, meaning that when I have now approved the contract, reviewed it, it's finalized, I have a contract being identified in the document. The amount here is quite cool. I would then register the document and expect this one to be auto matched or auto approved. So let's check this out and see what goes down. Really exciting now. Yes, the document is released. It was linked to a contract, and meaning that the invoice was automatically approved, and that is this process is completed due to the contract was reviewed. It was, you could say, pre-approving the invoice. So whenever we get an invoice that is attached, linked, matched to this contract, the invoice can be also approved, saving me the time of approving each invoice afterwards when I receive it. Instead, I would rather have one contract being approved, and then all the documents that flow within that expected invoicing period are then automatically approved. One last thing I want to show you is if you go to the contract card for LinkedIn, you should see a bit of information here. Looking at this one, that we also keep track of what is being invoiced, what is posted. Nothing yet, but we do have a contract pending posting, so we see there's some outstanding amounts here. All this is then being calculated, adding up, and providing you with information about how much do we actually buy through this contract, and that is quite convenient to know.